destroy the seed. Satan's war against you and I. We don't like to hear about something like that. We'd rather, perhaps we'd rather bury our head in the sand and pretend such a thing is not happening. But what would happen if our country decided, let's say our politicians decided that even though there was good reason to believe that the enemy was infiltrating our country and sabotaging and doing all kinds of underhanded things to destroy our country and perhaps set up a total destruction? Well, if our politicians and all the people simply are in denial and they pretend like it's not happening and don't even look into the issue, well, they're going to be destroyed slowly or perhaps quickly at some point. There's going to be all kinds of chaos and bad things are going to happen because you can't live in denial. And so this is similar to what's going on in our spiritual lives. It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. In Genesis 1:26, God gave us the power. He gave us the power. God said in Genesis 1:26, "Let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion." God gave us dominion. Does anybody realize this? Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. God gave us dominion, but not all Christians seem to be aware of this, or they forget. It's easy to forget if we don't exercise our dominion. And then, you see, if Satan can convince us that our salvation and our power is based on the way we feel, then he's essentially taken away our power because we are deceived. We have been fooled, and if we go along with that, we lose, because our authority is not. God never said it was based on our feelings. So our uncertainty and our confusion costs us our power. Now, how did we originally lose power? Because that is in fact what happened. In Genesis 3:46, Satan launched a sort of attack on mankind. He said, "You will certainly die," to Eve. "Oh, you will certainly not die," he told Eve, "if you eat from the forbidden fruit." And then Eve went for that. She went for that temptation. But what Satan was really saying is, why don't you sign over some of your authority to me? God gave Eve, Adam and Eve, the dominion and the authority. And Satan tricked Eve into disobeying God. What he was saying, he wasn't saying this, but what he meant was, why don't you give me your power? Why don't you give me some of your power? That's what happened there. Now, Satan knew that when man disobeyed God, Satan was able to usurp man's power. He was able to steal that power, and that's what happened. So just as God transferred some of that power to man, and woman transferred some of that power to Satan through disobedience and being fooled, being naive. Now, God was not happy about this, and he rebuked all parties to this transaction. And he said, "I will put enmity between thee and woman," he told Satan, "between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." Now, it sounds there like God has put enmity between the parties, between Satan's seed and Eve's seed, the descendants. And there's going to be violence. there's going to be violence. God set it up. He said, it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So this was what happened. Now, what happened then? Well, it didn't take long for this violence to erupt. Cain killed Abel. Now, you got to remember, there's an unseen world going on here. Cain kills Abel. Now, perhaps Satan provoked Cain to slay Abel. Why would he do that? Because God already said, I will put her seed against your seed. There's enmity there, and Satan said, well, I will kill the seed. I will kill the seed. And he had other reasons for doing this, which we'll get into. But so Cain killed Abel, which wiped out Eve's seed. However, Eve had another baby, which changed things dramatically in world history. Because Eve gave birth to Seth, and through Seth came the nation of Israel, and ultimately Jesus Christ, which was the worst case scenario for Satan. That's what he was trying to take. That's why he was so desperate to kill the seed. He didn't want Jesus Christ to be born into the world. It didn't work out, though. So, from a spiritual perspective, the Old Testament is a record of God bearing seed of the woman through the nation of Israel to bring Jesus Christ into the world, and the history of Satan's attempts to corrupt and destroy the seed of the woman that would bruise his head. Therefore, there's a lot of violence in the Old Testament because there's a warfare going on here based on this original conflict. And it continues to this day. Satan relishes in destroying the seed of the woman. We see genocide around the world. We see atheist communism in various countries like Russia, Vietnam, China, and many other countries. And we see in the last century 100 million deaths. So, destroy the seed. Satan's war against you and I. But do we have the power that was given to us? Do we still have that power? We'll talk about that in the next video, because we're certainly going to need to know the answer to that question. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next report.